Hello, and welcome back to London Cycle Routes. Today, I'll be showing you how to cycle from Bloomsbury, in central London, to London Bridge, just south of the river. This ride takes about 25 minutes, and you can do the whole thing on quiet streets and protected cycle lanes. As you can see from this screen, if you were to take the same journey by tube, it would probably take a little bit longer, and you might also have to change trains, which is a bit of a pain. If you find this video useful, then please don't forget to subscribe to the channel on YouTube, as I post new videos just like it every week, and also take requests. Alright, let's get going! So we're starting on Farringdon Place, just outside University College London, and we want to head eastwards down these nice protected cycle lanes. You'll notice that the design is slightly different on this side of the road to the other side of the road. The reason for that is there actually used to be a two-way cycle track only on this side of the road, so the lane that we're in was actually for cyclists going in both directions. And then around 2015, Camden Council converted this side to one way and then added the second protected lane in the opposite direction on the other side, so actually doubled the space for cyclists. That was part of a trial which was quite controversial actually. A lot of sort of motorists and cabbies lobbied against it, but they did make it permanent, and I think you should really agree that it's a really nice street to cycle on now. It's a really useful east-west corridor across this bit of north-central London. We were going there basically from Gower Street, Tottenham Court Road, and if you keep going eastwards you can get to Islington or Farringdon, somewhere like that. Really, my only complaint is that it doesn't go further west. Unfortunately, when you get to the borough boundary with Westminster, the cycle lanes basically give up, and it would be excellent to be able to cycle through, Marylebone, and maybe even to the top of Hyde Park and meet up with Park Lane, and that would create a really good network in central London. Saying that, there isn't actually a protected cycle lane here either, really. This bit of the route relies on quiet streets, and I think it's okay. The junctions have been sorted out to be good, so you can see here they've recently redone this junction with Ampton Street and Gray's Inn Road, and we've got our own little cycle light here which we wait for the green, and then we go across into this street which has bollards over the entrance, so as you can see it's only really for access for residents if they're in cars, and there's no through route or anything like that, which keeps it really quiet and nice to cycle on. We turn right here onto Cubbett Street, and this is the similar story, so there isn't any through traffic on this street, so really it's just us on this street cycling and any residents or deliveries who need to be around here. If you've watched any of these videos before, you'll probably know this first section of the route quite well. It's really the spine down central London. If you were to turn off left here, that would be towards Islington, going on Quietway 2, but we're not going to do that. We're going to go straight on, and you can see these flats that they've been building for absolute years are coming along quite nicely. Here I stop at the red light, but then the worker actually beckons us forward and says to come through, so I think the red light must have been broken. He's actually directing traffic, so he tells us to come through there, so I didn't run a red light there. But yeah, hopefully that building site will be finished soon, because you're starting to see cars parked outside those flats there, and when that's finished there'll be a lot less disruption on this section of the route, which is a sort of major through route for cycles in central London. If it helps you wayfind on this section of the route, we're actually following Cycleway 6, which is really a sort of flagship Transport for London route, so you can see these signs here that say C6, and also written on the ground there C6, so yeah, that's the way we're going. And then we head on to Farringdon Road here. One thing I do like coming up here is the head start for cycles. So if you look at these traffic lights, look at the traffic light that's a little bit further away from us on the other side of the junction, and you'll see that the green for cycles actually appears, and then the green for cars does. And there's a lot of junctions that do give a head start for cycles in London, and that's really good, but I think it's nice to be able to show the cars that that's the case, so showing it on the main traffic light that they'll be looking at it, not just on the cycle height traffic lights. By the way, unfortunately here we're seeing one of the limitations of the route. This bus stop hasn't been done properly, so you have to overtake the bus, which is not a pleasant thing to do. And of course there's also this section here where it's really common to see vehicles loading on the double red lines, which isn't legal. There are much better bus stops available on this route. Here's one just coming up, a much better example, and you can see there's a bus stopped at that stop, and if we'd had to overtake it, which we didn't in this case, but it wouldn't have been a problem because we would have just gone up the inside of it, and that's a much better way of doing it. And it basically means that you don't have to swerve out into oncoming traffic in order to get past them, which is very dangerous. If you do have to overtake them and there's not a bus stop bypass, the right thing to do is make sure you check over your shoulder to make sure it's clear and then overtake them. Or if you prefer, you can just wait for them to move on. That queue on the right hand pavement, by the way, is to do with the Italian consulate. And on the right there, you saw there was a dropped curb, a gap in the pavement there, and that will take you up towards St Bride Street and Shoe Lane, which is a nice route from this north-south axis over into Holborn and Chancery Lane area. If you work there, that's an area there's a lot of offices. So if you're coming from South London or from Camden or something on Cycleway 6, that might be a nice place to break off if you're looking for a route down there. And the only thing that I would say about this route is it's very good, and we're getting a sort of a green wave through all the lights, but there are a lot of signals on it. Like if you get unlucky and you hit a red and then you hit another red and you hit another red, it can take quite a while to get through it. It seems to be alright at the moment, but I've had some pretty slow experiences on there. I really like Blackfriars Bridge, by the way. I think the view from it's really nice, and this is great, this lovely wide cycleway. It's really great, I think, that there's clearly been a deliberate focus from sort of TfL and the boroughs to improve cycle connections across the river on the bridges. And actually, it's a good time to mention, we've just gone over Blackfriars Bridge, and obviously we're going to London Bridge, so you might think that we would go over the bridge, London Bridge, to get to London Bridge area, but we're not doing that. And the reason for that is that while London Bridge itself is great to cycle across now, the approach junctions on both sides aren't so good, and also just the routes leading to the bridge, particularly on the north side, I don't think are quite up to scratch, so we're taking Blackfriars Bridge. Now, we do want to turn off this quite quickly, so we want to go left here onto Nicholson Street. That's the one you want to watch out for, and the way to remember it is that it's signposted Quietway 14 or C14, as they're changing all the Quietways into cycleways, so it'll be C14 rather than Q14. And this will lead us into some nice back streets, filtered back streets, and if you're going in the opposite direction, there's also that protected lane as well. This is a symmetrical route. And follow Q14 for a little while until you get to Great Suffolk Street, and then we break from Q14 and we actually head this way. And you can see here that's the Tate Modern in the background and the Tate Extension. And although this is a one-way street for cars, you can see that there's a contraflow cycle lane there, so you can cycle in both directions. And the same here on Sumner Street. We have a protected lane for at least for the junction. Now you turn off right here and note those bollards and the no motor vehicles signs. That's a little motorbike and car symbol. So there's no cars at all on here, which is really nice. It's a nice little cycle, nice and wide, nicely surfaced. And you pass through the bollards at the end here. And then as the road bends around, we turn left onto Park Street. And what we're following here is really a quite nice Quietway link through the back streets of Southwark by the river. And here's another nice protected contraflow cycle lane here. It's a little bit narrow, I think, but really quite good. And the effect of all these one-way streets with contraflows on them, and also that part of Sumner Street that was closed to motor traffic is, I mean, you can see there's no cars on it, because they can't run through it, because the direction in which they're allowed to travel essentially keeps changing, but we're allowed to travel all the way through it. And this is another way of removing through traffic from a route. Often in a low traffic neighbourhood, the approach is to make sure there's no through route by blocking off the route entirely. But here you can kind of do it with slightly less drastic measures. Unfortunately, there's a little bit of work going on here, so I had to just go around the building site. But we head on to Clink Street, which you might recognise this if you've ever come to London as a tourist. It's near the Clink, the sort of museum come tourist attraction. And this bit, although it isn't technically shared with pedestrians, it is actually a road. I mean, in reality, there's going to be a lot of people walking in the road, so, don't upset anybody and don't piss anybody off. Go slowly and just take your time. Now, you can go right here, and it's probably a little bit quieter, but I thought I'd show you this, which is the Golden Hind. That is the ship that belonged to Sir Francis Drake, apparently. Well, it isn't exactly. It's a replica that was built in 1973. But they did circumnavigate the globe with it and to make it legit, so to speak. And we sort of come here back onto the quiet streets, and you can see there isn't really any through traffic here, except for people doing deliveries. And you might notice that bridge with the double-decker bus on it just above us, that is actually London Bridge itself. So we're going under London Bridge right now. Kind of sneaky, but yeah, I'm going to take you all the way to the station. But before I do that, please do remember to subscribe to the channel on YouTube if you enjoyed this video. And also, I need to remember to remind you that you can download a digital map of the route. There's a link in the description, and you can use the GPX file for the app or device of your choice. But anyway, here we are. You can see that route is actually reasonably direct. It's kind of an S shape. It does double back on itself very, very slightly south of the river. I do that to keep things a little bit quiet and to stay on sort of filtered, quiet streets and protected cycle lanes, which is what I like to do with all the videos. But yeah, thanks very much for watching, guys, and see you again next time.